Well. It's about 7, so we will get started here. Thank you. Those of you that join, when you do join and get to see us, welcome to the South Carolina Inventors Forum. Adrian Pelkis here with our host, Tom Ledbetter from Lewis Technical College, and I'm glad you could join us. Always hoping I can remind you that we're here because our forefathers had the foresight to think that owning your own ideas was going to be a good idea and a way to make this country grow, and in fact it did. So it was in the first article of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, that said that to promote science and the progress promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. And the interpretation of that has been under fire a little bit recently, but the point is you still have the right to what is now actually it's not a private right anymore. It's not a personal property, it's public property, but you were still granted the exclusive right to that. So that's where it lines. So,
but it's still under discussion, right? I mean, there's activities going on right now relative to this.
Well, there's the different branches of government. The one branch here, the Supreme Court's the one that actually turned this around and said, no, wait a minute, this isn't your private property anymore. It's a public property. So the Supreme Court's decision is one thing. The other things having to do with the patents and patent laws, we'll talk about a little bit. It's what the Congress has done by passing the American Invents Act, and the PTABs that created are the division of the Patent Office that now works to invalidate the patents that the Patent Office had issued. Right. We'll have a little discussion about that, but there is work on that end to hopefully turn that around. Yes.
Right.
So tonight, I'd like to welcome all. And our next slide here, we thank our supporters that have been so helpful, and this whole group of folks here, and especially like to thank Tim for the person who in fact introduced us at first, Tom. And it was actually from Tim and Lisa Kehoe that I met Tim, and Tim introduced me to the 1 Million Cups group and all these other fine folks here. So special thanks to Tim. Our supporters that actually contributed some funds. Now we are a 501, we're a nonprofit, and so the money we're collecting, we're dedicating for the most part to go to an invention contest if that pans out this year. Otherwise, we are a charitable organization that helps other charitable organizations. So
where is David Waller located?
David is in San Diego. He was very essential. He's actually on the board of the San Diego Inventors Forum, and I've been discussing with him and 2 other members of that board how we could combine groups maybe and Zoom together at least. So there's talks of them resurrecting that club. We hope they can come bring that aboard.
Well, I think that would be something singular to have a group of folks from Columbia, South Carolina, directly interfacing with a group of folks from San Diego. Because it's I think that's something we should probably put out as a target for ourselves.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. It gives me more impetus because I know 3 of the 5 board members are all for it, and the other 2 are just not even responding yet. So we can shake that.
But I would like to have the opportunity to set a time to get an agreement that we want to do this, and then give me time to set 6 or 8 people around the table that would be of influence here in the Columbia area.
Awesome.
Just to do something like that. Okay.
Very cool. Very cool. Right. One of them would be delighted to hear that. That's Michelle Nash-Hoff.
He's one of them. He's one of the people that I would bring to the table. The other one would be folks that we've had here before. Right.
Awesome. Okay. Right. Well, matter of fact, here's our lineup. I'm happy to say that we have had a great year so far of speakers that have come here to share their knowledge and some information with us. Doug Lineberry was one of the first, came to talk about our patent needs. Lindsay Brooks has brought Slap Shop and ShamWow products to market, has been on HN.
That's still my high water mark for the year so far. All right. So far was her presentation. I got fired up about listening to her and how she goes about and how she thinks. I mean, that is really deep.
Kind of almost a fire hose of information. Actually, so much experience and dealt with so many things in this industry. the players and the people and the cinema and TV market especially has been our specialty. But I've been influenced by actually tonight's presentation. Probably has a few of our words blended in there tonight. Other presenters that have been, we've had our own local John Carrington, who's shown us how we can turn a 3D service into a producer of personal safety devices with their specialty masks that they created.
And John and Z-Verse have been added to my universe here, and I've actually sent 3 companies in his direction,
Awesome.
of which I think 2 of them they're actually doing business with right now. Well, so, but see, that didn't exist before. The contact didn't exist, or the service didn't exist, right? But
well, I'm glad it is again part of the whole community. We have all these different resources, and when you realize that they are available and what they provide, now you've got answers. When people come in and they need something done, well, here it is.
Well, but everything's with a grain of salt too. So, this is not free, it's not cheap, all right. But this when you go here and you go several other places in town that we have these resources. You need to remember that these are ongoing viable businesses, all right, and they're in business to make money, right?
Of course,
and the Doug Linebergers of the world will come and speak to you, but downstream he's thinking that you're going to need legal services.
Well, of course, that is the synergy here. They help us out with some basic understanding of things, and once you basically understand that you need their service, they're happy to provide it.
They're happy to provide it.
The point is, if they come here, they are showing face, which means they are above board. They are credible. They are putting their reputation on the line, and that in itself is a measure of character.
Absolutely,
a huge measure. So all these folks here. Your friend here was Marty, and with Flextronics, he gave us he actually gave me a tour of the factory and described to us what their capabilities are. And I'd love to see if somebody here in South Carolina comes up with a product. In fact, the gal I was talking to last week who's making these hospital beds. Who knows? In fact, that could turn into something that they need a real production line.
Well, yeah, and if they need more than 20 or 30 of them, you're going to have a contract manufacturer to put it together.
Right. And the advantage of doing that here is is a huge advantage. Huge advantage. Some other speakers we've had. There's a little bit more news coming up here about Chris.
This guy's a lot of fun. I mean, he really is.
Yeah, he's quite charismatic. He's on the board with the UIA. He's got his own manufacturing facility, and he's been on Good Morning America, a few other shows, and he's got actually an announcement that will be coming out here in a minute. I'll tell you about his next big thing. You'll see him in a week and a half on a major show again.
Okay.
So we've got.
He's not going to propose berries to anybody this time.
No, he's already done that once. I don't think that. I think there should be enough for one life.
All right.
Michelle Beer was wonderful presenting to us about marketing and what does it take to make that connection and things you're looking for to market. And, that was a delight having her here. And then
she has, for folks that might not know Benedict College is one of several HBCUs here in South Carolina. So historically black college or universities, right? So she's sitting in a really good spot right now as we look at the developing economy and the whole activity of the diversity, equity, and inclusion activities, and she's right in the middle of that. Right, she's right on. Okay.
Well, it's about time, and it's needed, and she is right, a bright star right there, and very helpful. Didn't bring Warren's picture in, but Warren Tuttle is the president of UIA, and he's involved with so many things with the patent office, the National Council for Expanding Innovation, and next slide, he's also the author of the Inventor Confidential book, which after his many decades in the industry is a true view of how the game is played and different players do things, and what inventors really need to do to bring their products to market. He himself has helped with over 100 license agreements.
Yeah.
And these are with major tool companies and life brands and appliances. So it was actually a blessing to see him write a book and people that are considering getting in the invention world, it's really a must read.
Well, as we're just having a conversation about it, having finished his book, and I've got two copies on my desk in there. I finished it. The key words here for the folks should take away from here is honest and profitable. You know, as far as the honest guide to profitable inventing. All right, he comes about it in a different way, and it's like you mentioned earlier, the for-profit. You know, the supposed for-profit help out there works by a cookbook formula
for their own interests only, really not yours. And we're getting inundated with that now because yes, the economy's turning, things are tough, and yes, Americans want to do something, so they're pent up and they go out and they've got these hopes and dreams, and they're just taking advantage of so many of these groups that have popped up recently. A lot of them, I call them one-trick ponies. They made one product come to market. Now they think they can coach you on everything in the world. And then they charge. Some of them are charging $275 an hour. I meet people every Thursday for 1 hour for free, and have done that since 2005, because coaching shouldn't be about taking people's money. It should be about encouraging, motivating them, and helping them understand what is it that they have to do homework-wise to get ready. If things get going and come on later, I can help in any other ways. That's another discussion. But anyway, coaching, and for Warren to write this book, it's along the same lines and that same thought. Let's be altruistic about this.
And it's not a difficult read either. I mean, it's very understandable epistle that he's put together. So it's really good. It's really good.
Oh, I'm glad you joined.
I mean, it's not a thrill novel or anything,
No.
I'm not a big nonfiction reader, but I'm a addicted reader. I read every day. Right? I love fiction and all this other stuff. I enjoyed the book. I mean, it was good.
It wasn't dry. It had a lot of stories to it. It had character.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
So and our old friend here is Satish.
Yeah.
Chirakumali, and his brilliant invention of the RF tracking and using the Internet of Things.
It's called Mosquito, Moskeet.
Detecting the sound of the specific mosquitoes, and the Internet of Things was his expertise and knowledge of things, and describing that and discussing how
he got started as a SaaS consultant, software as a solution.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And then he got it down to the Internet of Things and the connectivity. This is where they've come from.
Well, that little project that I was talking about with Maggie was working on, in fact, the application for that is a SaaS application of the biggest magnitude possible.
All right.
So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
Last month, our own dear friend here, Dr. Thaddeus Jones, was our speaker, and he talked about the 10 tips for making videos. It was a really great presentation. We did videotape that. It is online, and you can watch those 10 great tips, the basics of video making. And the next two presenters was last month. This is the new president of the United Inventors Association, Carmen, Donesco, and he talked to us about the mission at UIA to empower inventors through education, access, and advocacy.
Very personable in his discussion. Obviously, very, very excited and caught up in everything.
Yes, passion for this. Yes. He's been doing great. The video, he's actually turned around the whole video series. UIA's now producing video series with different education subjects, and he's the host for that and brings on other speakers. And it's really an action-packed podcast viewing. So it's a great fun. He's really raised the level for United Inventors Association. I'm working on some new projects as well. So it's really great to hear from. Then my dear friend Randy Landrenew. Randy and I go back to 2015 when we went to Washington to help stop a bill, HR 9, and we created the U.S. Inventor nonprofit group, a 501c4, and we lobbied together a number of times, and he's still very active in working with that group to one, bring awareness of the fact that patent laws that have the way they've changed, this gives the advantage to the corporations. And he's also been promoting now a series of videos with Josh Malone, the inventor of a bunch of balloons. And they've actually now showcased over 600 inventors of some of the most significant things you can imagine that had their patents now revoked and validated because of this new process that allows a corporation to just step on you. The little inventor has to come up with 450,000 to defend themselves to start. All sorts of other things that changed in the patent laws. Randy's an advocate for us small inventors, and I just talked to him just this week, he and the other founder of the USI, about how they're moving things forwards, and it is building up speed and picking up more followers. We've come to realize that we need to associate with the clubs of the world, of the country, especially like the Rotary Club and other groups that do understand the benefits of the American way and what capitalism is, and when it comes down to patents and how that is important for entrepreneurship, and it all blends together. And when we have a weakening of our patent system, that was the foundation for businesses starting up and investments getting going in this whole system we have. So anyway, Randy,
the founders of Rotary wouldn't have been able to found Rotary if they did not have patent protection in the businesses they had started.
Indeed, indeed, indeed.
So, but just a side note here before we leave, Randy, my chief financial officer, i.e. lovely wife, comes in to see me Monday evening. She says, "What's this?" And she's pointing at the credit card bill, and it was I made a donation to U.S. Inventor last month while Randy was speaking. I'm in there making a donation.
A man of action, a Rotary man of action.
So I said, that's a donation I made to U.S. Inventor. She said, "Is that you and Adrian?" I said, "No, that's part of what we're doing." But this is the national organization that advocates for that.
Thank you, Tom. That does my heart good seeing you realize the benefit and the importance. So thank you for
your like every time I turn around, I buy a book, or make a donation. But that's where it is. Okay.
It is, and it does add up, and it is getting up there. I might have let the cat out of the bag earlier, but that whole group was backed up actually by the Tea Party. They put out a video, a documentary a couple of years ago called "Invalidated: The Shredded in the U.S. Patent System," and that's available on Amazon. And it was just a couple of months ago, the film crew for that came out to my house, and I had a 7-hour interview with them, and they are coming out with a second follow-up on that movie because it is that important. And they're getting even more support so then they can distribute it a little bit more. So there'll be more news of that.
Right. Since we're essentially two of us carrying on a conversation here, you mentioned Rotary just a minute ago. Rotary has a Rotary International magazine comes out each month. Okay, they're always looking for articles for that. I'm just wondering if we might not ought to, get with Chuck or get with Jerry or get with somebody who is an accomplished writer and create a submission to Rotary International for publication in their magazine about the initiative, about the inventors forums and the clubs around the United States, and find out because it's international, it would be published in other countries, and then I think in 27 languages. You might end up with I think that the appeal of the opportunity that our forefathers put into the Constitution is, if you do have an idea and you can bring something to the table, there is a way to protect it, and there are people that can help you market it and do these kind of things. But see,
that is a dream that so many people in this world can't achieve in the country they're in right now, that's the reason they leave that country and immigrate here. And I've met many of them. That was what drove them here, was going, in your country, you can profit from your ideas. In my country, I can't. So that was.
I think there's that you build a little storyline like that into what we're doing. I think you'd have a large appeal for something like that.
Certainly agree.
Let's set that aside. Let's think about that. Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you for that
Right?
suggestion.
That's the motivational moment with Brian Pearson. How's that?
I guess it's so. I didn't see Brian come aboard this evening. I thought he was going to be with us. I guess we could check our participants.
He's not. There's
No,
only
no,
one
okay,
participant.
well, our next slide, I guess, is to give credit to Brian, who's normally aboard, must have gotten something else coming up. He actually just had eye surgery on both devices, so you can see
I
clearly.
bought his book and read it in one night. Okay, I mean, it was a good read. It was a good read.
It is a strong read. He's a great man of faith.
Yeah.
And
That's obvious.
is taking it and God is helping him, and he's joined with T.C. Bradley, and he's slowly building he calls it a tribe, and his passion is helping others to succeed, and so he likes to give in that regard.
Okay.
So I'm sure we'll get back around and hearing more from Brian. So that's our usual thanks for our supporters and our moment with Brian here. Moving on, we next are announcements and new products. So there won't be any new products, I don't think, described today, although I did have a meeting this week with a local here, a lady who invented a new hospital bed. And she did, in fact, get a patent for it, and is now considering how to market it and get it going, which is a little
Can you
backwards.
share a little, about what, I mean, without giving away, trade secrets or patent secrets or whatever, what's unique about the bed? What makes it different?
In essence, it's got a built-in feature for, it's basically got a bathroom built into it. So, the problem with people who are incontinent or in beds and beds, and the whole issue, she addressed it, came up with a solution and patented it. Models are coming together, they're looking good, and I think this is going to be winner. And so I was happy to give her a good hour and a half of my time again for free to describe certain things. When you work in the medical field, aren't developed the way other products are. As a matter of fact, the feds jump right in and tell you there's this code of federal regulation 820, and this is how you have to design something from the start and mitigate the risks, concern it, document it.
So if you don't know what you're doing, you'd be wasting a whole lot of time.
You waste a whole lot of time. You end up having to backtrack and do all over from scratch again. To submit anything to the FDA, you got to have a device history file, which means, well, I had a company that was certified to start with to do this right, and they follow these rules, and here's all the documents to prove that. So yeah, there's a path for medical devices. It's quite unique. So anyway, I explained that to her, and why something that arduous is why you probably want to consider licensing, because the expenses, when you have to create that kind of a company that has that organization to be able to document control and do all those things, you've put a couple $100,000 of investment. Otherwise, you're not getting the big. What it is FDA gives you the clearance to market. A 510K means it's like something else. They'll give you an okay to market. But the big thing is the billing codes. If a hospital can't bill for it, they won't buy it. If a doctor can't bill for it, he won't give the treatment. So CMS, Center for Medical Services, creates these billing codes. Durable medical equipment gets a billing code when it's properly approached and signed off by the FDA. And so that would be the company that would license her equipment, would pay for all of that development costs and getting the certification.
Well, obviously, the company that would step up to do that for her would have the vision to be able to see downstream where something like this would be of value, and with what that would be their enticement to go at risk for a new invention.
I was before I meet anybody, I do my homework. I read her patent, and I realized, okay, she's gonna have to know what is the FDA product code for this, because they have codes for everything. I looked that up for her. The classification, class 2, it's not invasive, but it still has to have documentation. I also looked up all the manufacturers that make hospital beds. That's going to be the target list. Those are the people she's going to be approaching eventually when she's got her presentations ready and all those other ducks in a row. So it was, when I sat down, I opened her folder, I spread out, here's your patent, here's your federal regulations, the codes you're under, here's the manufacturers you're going to be talking to, where are you on all of that?
I think we have 2 of those manufacturers here in South Carolina. I think Hill-Rom, right, has a facility here. I think so in Florence, okay. But I think there's another one somewhere else. Hill-Rom is a big name.
So, well, what else is an announcement here today is a little bit of a sad note. Let's go ahead and the next slide because it's a comment here. If y'all got the newsletter, you'll have read on page 3, I did a little tribute to actually a dear friend of mine, a lady named Margaret Renchie, who, when I was running the San Diego Inventors Forum, had approached me and was just had to talk to me because she thought I might understand her idea. And it was a very complex idea. Her presentation, when I first saw it, was 450 PowerPoint slides, that complex an idea. What she had envisioned is a methodology to identify everything. And by the word everything, it is everything. She redefined reality of any sort into a way that can be defined and identified and stored as a memory bit of some sort. It was an enormous algorithm, and her reason for doing this is she understood that we don't own our identities. On the internet, it's you rent your identity basically, and without control of that, you'll never, well, you can't control your privacy. Things are sold, things are taken away from you, and she envisioned this whole system to bring the world together and change it. So she just passed away recently and wasn't ever successful in actually commercializing this idea. We went to Singularity Summit, we went to some major events and tried to make connections. She was very adamant that she find somebody to work with that believed in God and wanted man to have independent, be democracy. And she had those ideals, and she wouldn't work with somebody that wanted to put the money and the profit first. And that didn't allow us ever to fulfill really the dream. So the other problem was her level of understanding for the system she created was so complicated that when even she began talking to her acronyms and her discussions and her theories, it was all so intense right off the bat. It was just, you were mind blown and then overwhelmed just almost immediately. So it was, but how to comply and what actually became of it. She filed in 2001. You know, you've heard of blockchain, you've heard of Bitcoin. They are based on the premise of some of her ideas. And in fact, in 2016, there were articles coming out saying, hey, you know, the inventor of Bitcoin didn't invent it, it was Margaret Renchie. She got discredited, unfortunately. Nobody ever read her material deep enough to realize and understand, no, in fact, she had outlined the whole thing. Anyway, the moral of the story that I put into here that I wanted to read to you is that as with many great inventors that have conceived great ideas but not commercialized by licensing or developing a business around them, please stop stopping yourself. Our society, civilization, and planet suffers when you do. Make greatness, do great things, tell the world. If Maggie had ever done a TED Talk or something from an introductory level and made people realize that she was offering a way to change the whole world, it would have created a following. So there's a lesson in here, yes. And hopefully we can still see a time in the future where her ideas are really brought to light and brought to the world. Well, on the next more positive things, not that wasn't positive, it's just unfortunate she couldn't succeed, but she might still. There's still hope that people will regret it. We broke this out last month. I'm happy to report I got my royalty check last week for my pet product. Yay! Proof and shows to go you that you can, in fact, invent something on your kitchen table, sign a license agreement with somebody, have them go to China, build it, have them market it, get it on Amazon, get it on Chewy, and yeah, you get the check in the mail. So
it does work.
It does work. Okay. It does actually happen.
But you didn't get a royalty check on $100 billion.
No, just our little portion of it. But it's decent enough to pay the bills. I get the checks go to my main business, and my main business was able to give us our paychecks this month. So
that's good.
It all works
that's
out.
Good.
So I put this out last month as well. The pandemic really has made so many people suffer, and a lot of it is hidden. Struggling with depression and all this, and I had thrown this out last month because I have a concern and a passion for this, so much so that indeed a few years ago I created this concept called a mood adjuster. And it was based on the premise that your mood and attitude is based on what you've just witnessed or subjected to or influenced. How did that come about? Well, you saw things, you heard things, you felt things, you smelled things. All your senses were what gave you this information that put you in this mindset now. So why not use those same senses to, in fact, correct that mindset and show you things that are a little more positive, easing, calming, and soothing? And I devised a system that looked at 6 sensory inputs from different things, from your breathing, your voice, your temperature, your heart rate, and then combined it with things that would show you images, pictures, graphics, sounds, smells, and feels, and put this all in a system that envelops you. And it won an award from our city design, and there again, it was an enormous project, and I couldn't get the team, really a significant enough team together, doctorate level people that understood psychology. My understandings are of systems and these things, but I didn't have the horsepower in the psychology area. And when you're talking about areas where you don't have the credibility, it's like people, no, this guy doesn't have a degree in that. Anyway, we didn't get it flying, but my partner has stuck with it. And just this week, she connected with a company that has, in fact, got the premise for this. They created a cube you sit in, and you wear virtual glasses, and it has an aroma generator, and they're doing well. They're on the market. They've got studies going at universities, and they've got a whole list of sponsors that are now swarming them, trying to get their hands on this technology. And Friday, I will be able to pitch to them our concept, because it would take their product to the whole next level. Their product right now is kind of a one-way, will subject you to all this stuff. Our thing actually in real time monitors you, measures you, and adjusts the sequence and the approach. So there's also some ideas. I've mentioned something wearable, and we're hoping that we can progress to that, get something built right out here. So that's why this thing is about mental health. There are solutions. There are non-pharma solutions to depression and anxiety, and we hope that they will be coming out soon.
Well, and we have to say, you know, globally, the key words here for me in this statement are globally, because, you know, we depending on who you talk to, we may be seeing, and probably will continue to see, more positive signs here in the United States, you know, of coming out of the pandemic. You know, but the rest of the world is still up to their eyeballs, you know, in a lot of places, and you know. It's 2021 right now, and your point here is this is going to go out a decade out in front of us, you know, to be something that we'll be suffering from for, you know, for at least that long.
This generation, kids that are only 10-year-old, just spent the 10th of their life locked up. No, they've had their brains altered, their social skills destroyed, a whole lot of things. No, this is going to be a long-term cause and effect situation here. The country, the people have been traumatized. They're still not assured of anyway, it's a lot of psychological effects on our population that we're going to have to address. There it is. Another effect is because when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Yes, we are seeing new business licenses, even here in the state, are moving forwards. Next is to that end, I am involved with other nonprofits and groups, and in the vendor community, we're realizing there's now a plethora of upcoming, just come out of the box, coaches or organizations that are offering you services. They charge a lot of money, and because they know there's people with now new hopes and dreams, and they're not quite scams, but they're taking advantage of them, and in many cases just giving them boilerplate information but charging them exorbitant amounts of money. So there's a concept now that we in fact reform an organization that would be a hub for nonprofits that are offering altruistically the information to help motivate, educate, and network, like we're doing here in South Carolina. To that end, we've been discussing how it would be structured, what would bylaws be, and so on and so forth. And I said, look, it should be a constitution. So I took it upon myself to rewrite the preamble for it. So you might recognize the
yes, we do.
The format. We, the inventors of the United States, in order to form a more perfect community, establish camaraderie, ensure inventors' rights, provide for the common education, promote entrepreneurship, and secure the blessings of liberty to prosper from the labors of our minds, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United Inventors of America.
Preamble.
The preamble. And then there are 4 articles now that have been written. So that's in the works. All right, now other big announcements, because we're in the announcement portion right now. I mentioned earlier, Chris is getting back in the news. He, in fact, helped this lady here, Judy Abrams, develop a whole new device for children to learn how to use the potty, the super potty training. And they, in fact, manufactured it, and they are going to be on Shark Tank. It's the final episode of Shark Tank this season, and it's about in a week and a half away. So set your recorders and tune in and watch that show, and we wish them the best of luck, and we'll see how it turns out. We've heard it's quite a spectacular episode.
Okay.
You might imagine.
So they've already taped it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so some people know the outcome. Right.
Only he knows.
Okay.
He's not saying a word.
Okay.
He's under about this much legal paperwork to keep it quiet. So that's what he's doing. Nobody knows. Right. But we wish him the best. I hope it turned out magnificent for him. And even if none of the sharks actually go for the deal, what they get in that few minutes of publicity is country club. It's awesome. All right, so tonight, folks, our presentation is about making presentations. Let's roll. So here we go. Preparing presentations brought to you by yours truly, Adrian Feltus. All right, so communication is a multifaceted thing. As humans, we talk in ways where we use our voice inflections, linguistics, facial expressions, gestures, hands, along with eye contact. Writing and imagery is part of it all. I don't know if you saw Saturday Night Live this last weekend, but Elon Musk actually got on that show. Yeah. And he did a few quirky things, and people loved it. You can see his genuineness, and so the littlest things are perceived, yes. And it's so important. We're going to discuss some of these things. So your presentations are planned, they're rehearsed, and delivered with a passion that is genuine from your heart. So the point is to get people to feel and think of how you're thinking and hopefully take the action you're asking for. So let's dive into how this is required. So what you need: the data, direction, and determination. You will be presenting facts about your idea. You're going to show that you have a realistic plan on how you're going to accomplish this idea. And you're going to show it in a way that's going to show that you are really motivated and you have the energy to do it. So that's the data, direction, and determination. These are kind of oversights of this. Another overarching thing is, why are you presenting this? Is it because you're hoping to license your idea? In other words, rent the rights to another company to develop and market for you? Or are you going to vertically build a company, an empire, a legacy? So the 3 questions here are separated, because if it's just for a license agreement, you'll need to present to people what is the problem, what is the pain that you're trying to solve, how did you solve it, what's the unique selling proposition that you've done that makes it different than any other solution, and then, well, how is this thing going to make money? Is it really worth doing profitably? Because if it isn't, it isn't. If you're building a company, the rest of your presentation is going to have to include who's on your team, because it's very rare only one person can do a whole startup. You'll be needing some money, so you're going to have to explain what it's for. And if you are going to be getting money, the person who's going to be, in fact, lending it to you is going to want to know, when are they going to get back and what's the return on that? So the whole thing has to be done in a way that's, again, exciting. And that's a wow factor. So we'll talk about that as well here. So what we have here is that they are, in human nature, a few things to consider, again, before we talk about the specifics of different presentations. A few specifics to keep in mind. The short attention span is a fact of human nature. We've gone so accustomed to instant gratification, and the mind is so inundated. We have 60,000 thoughts a day alone. with an active mind going. So to be able to pay attention is actually, it takes effort. When I first wrote this presentation years ago, it was 14 seconds, and I heard recently it's down to 8. The kids nowadays, this generation, older generations have longer attention spans. The younger generation, it's almost impossible. You have almost less than 8 seconds now to be able to get them to catch on that there's an idea here. So your thoughts are abbreviated, your images are quicker. You've seen these presentations and even advertisements now where the pictures are flashing. It's incredible. So it's something to consider. The run-on sentence like this might in fact have people thinking about what they're having for dinner instead of what I'm talking about. Another thing is the whole way you approach people. Again, as I talked about Maggie earlier, she would immediately start talking about things at an intellectual level that was incredibly hard to understand. It wasn't about the money aspect, just the intellectual level she made too complicated for people to come aboard. You have to use what are the basics of human nature, and those are the emotions. Millions of thoughts, but only a few emotions, and one of them is empathy and sympathy and things like that. So the comment here is approach people by going from the heart. What is your passion, or what is the hurt? What is something they can immediately feel and sense the feeling for? Then convey to them the complexity of that issue and how there is a solution. So now they're involved with their mind more, but it's still started in their heart. Because if it's in their heart, they're still feeling with it, and they will subject themselves to learning a little bit more if it's made them feel. People don't buy things because of what it does, it's because of how it makes them feel. So the decision later to buy the product, or even the decision to invest in the product, it all starts with, can you convey to the heart, then the mind, then you talk about the financial advantages of investing or the benefits of buying and so on. Next, in human nature, neurolinguistics, we speak usually with brevity and as best way we can articulate things, but the science of the neurolinguistics is what the brain is doing when you're actually listening. To remember things, your brain creates engrams, they're memory patterns, and there are older engrams which are deeper memories, but a fresh memory, it's a little bit harder to create. And some of the ways to trick the mind are neurolinguistic skills. One of them is the double consonant. When you have a double consonant in the word Coca-Cola or sharpshooter, the brain, having heard that repetitive thing, goes, it automatically creates a stronger engram. And little tricks like that in neurolinguistics, by showing words that rhyme or go together. Many institutions, in fact, in their writings, when they have things they want people to learn and read, will use 3 different adjectives for a word to describe a word. They'll use a multiple of words. So word tricks are neurolinguistic tricks. Body language. As I'm sitting here, I have a Greek heritage line, and just like the Italians and others, we like to talk and shake, and so the body language is very perceptible, it's very red, and as we talk later in this about presentation, you're examined and you're visualized very quickly. Instantly, people get a picture of you and your expressions and your body language, and if you're slouching, if you're not looking up, and all these things are conveyed non-verbal. And these issues are so important, because if somebody's going to invest in your idea and your product, a lot of times the expression goes, they're not betting on the horse, they're betting on the rider. And that's you. And so your enthusiasm and commitment and passion really matters. And then EIQ is the emotional IQ, IQ is the intellectual IQ, and SIQ is the social IQ. So understanding who the crowd is, the social nature, the structure of this crowd, their intellectual level, so you don't talk past their intellectual level, and emotional level too. Realizing where they're sensing, if you can sense how they're reacting to you, the better you are in presenting. So that's just some tips on human nature, and then let's apply some of these things if we can.
But EI, emotional intelligence, applies to you also. Is knowing how, if you're making a pitch, and you're not getting, your emotional intelligence is going to plot for you ahead of time how you react to different comments from the people that you're pitching to. Right? Can you take criticism? You know, but you need to know how emotional intelligence is. I'm aware of how I am going to react if someone criticizes me, and I'm ready for it. All right. And
Absolutely.
So it's a two-way street.
Yes.
You know?
And I might have mentioned when we were doing Springboard, we have an intake panel where people would do their pitch for the first time, and we are judging them on all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is, yes, how are they reacting to our comments? And we'll throw out a comment sometimes because, you know, they didn't say anything bad. We just want to see if they're reactive. And the susceptibility to go immediately into a defense mode is a
and you can tell by the verbal reaction, you can tell by the body reaction that they're going into a defense mode. But they need to know that they need to know enough about themselves to know that they have a tendency to broadcast that when you get criticized. You need to manage that. All right, you need to be in anticipation of that.
Yes, it's a very two-way street, right? We're reading there, and then you've got to be able to read the reactions of the people that you're pitching to. No, please, this is adding to it. I'm happy it expands this whole. Otherwise, I'm not. I don't want to just spew it. This is real. You experience this every day. I'm sure the gentleman you were just coaching here earlier, you were probably noticing when he was either clamming up or really joyous about it, where he was confident about what he was talking about, and so on. So those are very important. All right, different types of pitches. There's, generally speaking, these are the types. Your elevator pitch is just that. You're sometimes a salesman and you've followed the key speaker who just left the stage because you come up to the elevator and you're, Dr. Jones, that was a great speech. I'd love to show you the same thing we've got that's this, that, this. Would you be interested in seeing that? That's your elevator pitch. You know, the speed dating is in the investment world, especially with angel groups. Quite often they have these contests now, and it is a speed dating with investors. And they set a clock and hit it, and you got 2 minutes to get something across and see if they're interested or not. The next step up is when you have 8 minutes. That's when you're doing a more professional presentation to angels or VCs, or perhaps with a license agreement. And then there's events where you're the keynote speaker or have to talk about subject as an expert. So we're going to talk about those here in the next few minutes and what the components are to those presentations. And again, it's coming across in a wow. As Lindsay, you mentioned, one of her partners has this expression: you got to show up to blow up.
So, I agree. I can see where that works for her. All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch. All right. You walk in the door, and the first thing is actually just like when you were dating, when you look in a room and there's a dance perhaps, and you're looking at the girls and you see that one girl, there was something that attracted you, and you walk up and hopefully she had that attraction back. That instant reaction is a chemistry. It might be our pheromones, it might be telepathy. I'm not the expert in that field, but the point is there is an instant communication that's nonverbal. And oftentimes one person will react to the other very openly and say, yeah, I would go with this person, or they're immediately saying, no, they have to be convinced. So instantly that determination comes from your appearance and your vibe and your smile and everything about you that you exude non-verbally. That's what an instant determination is based on. Still remember the heart, mind, and wallet approach. So you don't want to just, as soon as you meet somebody in the elevator, go, hey, you want to make $1 million? I've got this idea for you. Wow, no, wrong turn.
Yeah.
Is there synergy? Again, if you're in an elevator and this guy is an expert in plumbing and you're selling bird feeders or whatever, is there any connection at all with this person that you can relate to? What is the basis to have any foundation?
But you need to know that before you start to pitch. I would hope you know that before you start to pitch.
You hope you know that. Well, most of the time, if you're in an elevator pitch, now there's times where it's just all of a sudden you realize who you're standing next to, and wow, pleasure to meet you. Oftentimes, though, it's a little more contrived, and you have in fact not stalked them, but realized when there might be a place you can not perhaps corner them, but meet them as they're having a lunch perhaps, and just walk by the table and introduce yourself quickly and say something enough to see if there's any interest that might be worth following up. The only thing that comes across in these things are perhaps the business card. Going, fine, I would love to talk to you. So that would be a good conclusion and a success. Your next pitch, your next is the speed event. Speed dating. Yeah, this is, you can have a couple slides. You're not going to have a whole presentation, but a few. You're really at this stage, you can introduce yourself briefly, what the market is that you're in. Again, bear in mind, you want to communicate in a way that people will identify the pain that is being involved, the problem that exists, and you usually have them relate to it. Have you ever had this problem where you're doing this and this didn't happen, or that happened, and all of a sudden they're going, okay, I can see there's something here. What is it? So then you define that problem. Then you simply explain, you know, I did come up with a solution with it, and it's going to be this and that. And then how will your product sell? Well, I'm going to sell it online, or I'm going to sell it on a magazine, or I'm going to sell it in stores. And the next thing is, well, how are you going to get it there? So show that you've thought the next step forward and actually either made connections and know the paths of which you have to take to get it into those channels. So it's a very quick 2 minutes, but you can do it. And the outcome from that is, again, getting those business cards exchanged, and hopefully they'll set an appointment with you at a speed dating event. All right, our next kind of presentation, probably talking about the full-on 8-minute presentation now. This is when you have a chance to introduce yourself. Again, remember the heart, mind, wallet. You begin by expanding on not just what is the market, but how big. So then you start talking about the big numbers of what the whole big market is. Now your market is probably a subset of a subset of subset of that. So at this point, you should be able to define, well, how big is even the subset of this market. You can say, I'm in the food business. Well, which subset? Well, I'm in the baking business. Which subset? I bake cookies. Okay, you're finally dialing it down to which is the market. How big is that? Then again, defining the problem. And then now when it comes time to show how you solved it, this is when you have the time to actually show the most valuable tool you can bring to the table, and that's a comparative video. The ability to create a 1 to 2 minute little mini infomercial of your own is the most powerful way to compare what the competitor is doing and what the problem is with that compared to your solution, which is great. The black and white video and people can't fry an egg in this pan or whatever the issue is, and then all of a sudden it changes and it's bright colors and the kids are smiling and the women are laughing and the balloons. Anyway, it's a whole different way to show the solution is in fact being accepted. The testimonies that you can put in a comparative video in a very short one, even that helps so much when somebody else can see somebody else's emotional reactions, so they can share that.
Great point.
The next part of that is not just the how you will make money, but a little more evidence. So it's not just your hope and dream, but in fact you did some research on it and you did some study work and have maybe 100 data points to show that people do have that same reaction and will have the same thoughts when it comes to how much it's worth. What's the value? You've gone to some step of proving that. For the startups, again, who's on your team now is when you do go and explain you've got these kind of expertise in these positions that are relative, that they have the experience relative to the position you're holding them responsible for, and that helps the bankability of the team. You'll also then have to present to them how much money you're trying to raise, what it's going to be used for, what the milestones are for that, and again, it's just a crystal ball, but still have some projection as to 5 years out, what's the expected ROI. You have to give them some work.
But if part of what you're talking about here is pitching to, like, for instance, venture capitalists, in the marketplace right now, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, what's the current milestone return for today's venture capitalists? You know, I know what it used to be, right?
Yeah. They're all hunting those big pink elephants.
Yeah, they're all looking at, you know, double, triple, quadruple,
yeah,
quintuple.
A five-time return is an awesome return. But that's why they have a portfolio of a dozen companies, because only one will hit that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
that still plays today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now some of them go extreme. Some of these companies become unicorns, and they've got the little investor that started and it went for a heck of a ride. But those stories are far and few between. They make the news, and that is something to strive for. But for the most part, they're very realistic, and they're based on, well, we use a linear path of growth, and this is the whole market size. So our segment of it in this many years is this much. And you know, if it can be $1 billion market, then your percentage of that,
yeah,
could still be something significant. So it makes it worth it.
Yeah, but all that needs to make sense too. I mean, it has to be achievable. I would think, you know, in some form or fashion. What you got to present here is not is what's the expected ROI, but how are you also going to manage to get that return?
Yeah. Well, how you make that money? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So these are all the components to it, and the angels have the same format here in town. Venture South, I watched their presentation a few months ago, and the same thing. They expect 10 slides in a presentation, and they're generally using greetings, and they'll be upfront with you when you talk to them, and they'll tell you, yeah, we want to see these slides in this order, because that's how they mentally manage these things. Our next one, this is how if you're I'm missing a headline here, so
I'm sorry.
No, it's
try to
let's
get
see
that out of the way here. I want to hide. No, that doesn't do that. All right, so that's the video panel. Show video panel. Hide. Floating meeting control. There we go. How's that? Did I fix it for you?
Well, and shows to go you. I did know what it was about. I just stumbled on my own self-doubt.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Okay. No problem. Okay.
Put this together this afternoon based on something I did 6 years ago. So yes, sometimes you get called to actually do a major presentation. You are the keynote speaker, or on a lineup of speakers, and they've got time slotted for you, and you have to stand up there and present your idea on a major scale. And it's very much the same in the components of this presentation, even in the comparative video. And the larger portion, though, since you have more time, is who's on your team, what do they bring, and what is their background and why it's relative. So that is often expanded when you have more time to do such. Another thing is the SWOT analysis. You can expand on that. These are things that are usually brought up while the company and the plans are being developed, but they're put aside. Sometimes they're called back pocket slides. In the case of questions, you can bring it out. But the SWOT analysis that's brought out in this stage is very important for people to realize you did try to understand who your competition is and what the opportunities are to grow in here, what the threats are, and what your strengths are. And being honest about that will allow people to realize, well, great, he's figured out what he can and can't do. Once you know what you don't know, you know twice as much. So it's important, and sharing that makes an impact on people when you have that presentation time. The monies and then when they can brought in and what they're expected, that's often expanded as well, with more definition as to how you have connections in the market or with different people or industries. Anyway, it's all expanded, and the ability to have more slides with more pie charts and bullet charts and pictures it's a challenge, but it's rewarding in the fact that you get to express so much more of your thought. Because when you do an abbreviated version of this, you know in your head, even as you're presenting it, God, there's so much more. It could have gone on, but you had to have that ability to hook them and to be disciplined enough to not go overboard. Worst thing you go is, you hit the 8 minutes and the light turned red and you're still talking, and they literally come out with a hook and drag you off the stage. You don't want to be there. And I, in fact, did once had a follow-up presentation with a Techos Angel group, and presenter introduced me, and he did a little bit too long an introduction. I thought, oh, well, that just means that we're open forum about it. And so I started off in a much more general approach, and they go, no, time's up. And I just started, and I said, but wait a minute, I want to tell you about this and that and this and that. And oh, geez, wrong, wrong. Anyway,
but one of the things I think is important here, because I run across this, is yes, it's how much money do you need? What are you going to use it for? But a lot of folks will not address when, right? Because if I talk to 10 people pitch me, 9 of them think that an investor is going to write them a check for the whole amount on day one. And I said, no, whoa, wait a minute. Nobody in their right mind, if you need $150,000, nobody's going to write you a check for $150,000.
I have some stories.
Yeah.
I have some stories. Now, I have been at an angels meeting where, in fact, there was, because the angels are individuals. And so anyway, this fellow did the presentation. In fact, I did see somebody actually whip out his wallet and write him a 6-digit check on the spot. But he was a very successful entrepreneur doctor, and he saw the purpose. It's kind of like a Shark Tank thing. He's going, yeah, I want in on this. But no, you're absolutely right. For the most part, no, this is just an introduction. We're going to have more discussions. They want to know you personally. Have you really thought about all these other details that you didn't have the time to present? And yes, when does that money, can it come in bits and pieces? I've had investors that come in for $1.2 million, but it was in 200,000 chunks based on a whole trail of milestones until we had to accomplish and meet. So yeah, the win is to be presented and shows what comes out of that. And
but be prepared. In all of these situations, be prepared, and not know your material.
Oh, and not just know it, but being sincere about it. And the only way you can be sincere and have the confidence to be sincere and be confident and shine and be positive and not be afraid and not choke is to know your material inside out, upside down, inside out, upside down, backwards and forwards. You want to know more about the market than anything that you're presenting, because they could have any kind of question. You never know what kind of question they're going to come from, and you'd be best off if you had some sort of answer. Now, if you don't have an answer, admitting it, being honest about it, going, that is a great question.
Don't make something up.
No, right. BS doesn't.
But because I spent years working for a company that we were always, this is in the private sector. So in November around Thanksgiving, we were always there at the headquarters in a foreign country pitching next year's business plan. All right. And the man that I worked for said, we're going to practice and practice and practice and practice, because if they ask a question that you don't have the answer for, you lose. All right. And you don't want to make anything up, and like you said, if you don't have an answer, you say, that is a very good question, and I do not have the answer for that, but I will work and get you an answer for that. Yeah. But don't go glassy eyed and just freeze up right there because somebody's asking a question that you can't answer.
And you mentioned something that was earlier in the presentation, the rehearsing is so important, whether it's in front of a mirror or you videotape yourself and watch it in front of a mentor or somebody that's coaching you is even better, because you get the feedback. A combination of all of those is great, because a mentor might suggest things, and when you watch the video and read the notes that it gave you, then you really do put it together. During this one part of the presentation, you were looking down, you weren't confident, you hawed, you said or it didn't flow. You got to get through those rough points a little bit easier. Practice it, and yeah, with enough practice, it comes off naturally and sincerely. And when that radiates it, people go, okay, this guy's a winner. And so here in town, I guess South Ventures said they get 3,000 applications a year. Inaccuracies or problems with the filing of it alone, they throw away but 700 they'll at least ask to see pitches on. Now the pitches, there's about 30 that they'll contemplate seriously. So, and then from there it's even less that they even fund. Yeah. So to get into that top 2 or 5% is the goal. And yes, you only have one chance at that first impression. So all of these little ingredients, it's worth so much.
Don't give them a reason to eliminate you. All right. And than that first presentation. Because then you got to go into the second part of it, which is being selected. Right?
Yeah. Try to knock it out of the ballpark to start with, and things go a lot easier, and people become friends, and you're invited to the dinners, and people are talking. Yes, it is very true. So, how to pump up your presentation? People have limited resources. Is usually the throttling factor for all of this, and yet they still want to be an entrepreneur and they want to get their story out there. Sometimes it's just way too premature, and they do shoot themselves in the foot with a really bad presentation, and they didn't have the materials in the right order, and so on. So these are in the order of things of kind of in costs, really. If all you had is an idea, and all you can do is pick up something and say, well, what I want to do is take this and add a few buttons, and so you've got a prop. At least you can describe something. That's the most elementary level, is having a prop of something like it. Next stage, a sketch. Now, I'm not talking about making the crayon sketch or the whiteboard. I am talking about something that's a fairly neat sketch. Get your friend who's an artist. If you don't have those skills, get the sketch made so it's a little more presentable. Next level up is what you're seeing here, the PowerPoints. This is when you can put the sketches in words and start creating something that you can automate and you can voice over. That becomes a little more interesting, and people get a little more involved because they're getting more sensory inputs to deal with. The next level up, even in the PowerPoint, is when you can afford to get solid modeling made. That's when those sketches become the 3D renderings. Things that look like cartoons are actually realistic drawings. They're amazing. And some of the things I've created in the past were going to cost hundreds of thousands to develop for real, but we were able to get some renderings done that were either animated or 3D, and it was like they're just sci-fi, mind-blowing, beautiful works. And I'm very proud of them. Actually, in my house, you'll see I have posters of some of these works. They're just so cool. The mock-ups, that's when you can start talking about 3D printing things and doing things that are just form, but maybe not function, but they are able to be used in the video as a prop. But they're real mock-ups of what the real device will look like. So that's even more impressive and even less risk that somebody's going to misunderstand, what the concept is physically. Your next level is when you can actually make that model work. And there's quite a chasm of space between it's a static object and it's actually working. And what does it take technology-wise, or parts or components are designed to make a working model? Now, this has different levels. I've seen working models that are called kludges. They don't look at anything like the finished project, but when you press a button or hit the lever, it does the action you're trying to demonstrate. That is like, wow, I've never seen an egg broken like that before. So the working model is it reduces even more risk of wondering, well, how's it going to, I can see what it's going to look like now. How's it going to do this thing? They can see it do it. That's even better. A lot of times that is polished, and it is a beta model of something that is actually how it looks as well. And then when you combine that and create the user video, you're really bringing it to the level of state of the art, where now you're showing the comparison, you are showing testimonies, the reactions, the physicalities of it, the usages of it, the locations where it could be used. All these different aspects of your idea are identified in that video and shown off very, very quickly. And that's one of the most powerful things you can do. So those are how you pump up the presentation.
When you get back to PowerPoint and modeling, there's a whole area in here today that is around software packages that are relatively inexpensive that help you construct or draw, and you can put an idea down in 2 dimensions or 3 dimensions if you want to. So it's not like when I was within my career here at Midlands Tech, I've seen this CAD experience here, finding someone who can do that, go from a $10,000 price tag down to well below $500 price tag, for a competent CAD person to take your idea and do something with it, right? Because the tools have become much more sophisticated.
Indeed, they have.
Yeah.
They have electric whiteboards now, vibe boards. There's an industry now of making the presentations as a series of sketches, and it's an animated series of sketches. Yeah, there are some new tools to this that are making it a little bit more interesting. PowerPoint's been around for so many years. We've actually all burned out with these 5-point bullet points. We you know, a lot of people just, oh no, another PowerPoint. It's true. So let's try to spice it up. So yeah. Present and pursue with pizzazz. This is the whole thing. Again, being sincere and being.
PPP,
yeah. You know, well, there's a lot of other groups. And
there's a whole chart full of it here.
Right. Well, that's right. The sincerity, the passion, getting people excited about it, getting them to understand that there's a reason for this. It's bigger than just them. Hopefully it's something that is going to help a lot of people or society. Showing that you have pride in this, that you have made the commitment to do it and you're actually proud of that. It isn't something you force yourself to do it. You wake up in the morning every day to do this because you're so excited about it. And so that's a pride that you show. The potential, well, it's easy to oversell, but to be realistic about that is where it really can strike a chord. If you're way too exaggerating, then you kind of lose your credibility because it's like, wow, that's, you know, that's a pipe dream. But if you're showing this potential can be achieved in this stage, by this stage, by this stage, then that's exciting in itself. The follow-up, two different levels are where a lot of people fail, and I must admit myself in my career, I've got Rolodexes of so many hundreds of people that we had that interesting first conversation and got the card exchange, and then I didn't have the fortitude to follow through and build the relationship. And it is a relationship, and building that relationship is an effort, and it does take time. I think our friend Daniel Andrews here in town is huge on this aspect of, you know, it's not, you know, oh, you're going to get a connection. That just means I'm giving you a business card. And no, it's building the relationship so there is trust. They know you, you know them, and you know you can. That's so important. So the thanks, the paperwork is the letter, and then following up in person, being outward, being social. Not everybody is extroverted enough to do this. They got into this thinking, no, business is going to be so easy, it's just going to take off and it's going to go just because I had a great idea. No, you're going to have to build relationships. You're going to have to get the team. This is all personal involvement. The idea was 1/10 of what the whole picture turned out to be. So
one thing that you know, you and I were talking earlier about Guy Kawasaki, you know, and Kawasaki's 10-20-30 rule for PowerPoint presentations. 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font, right? Well, the whole idea behind a 30-point font is, if I ask, I'm not an engineer, so I'll talk about it. If I ask an engineer to give me a PowerPoint presentation, they're going to try to put the Bible on PowerPoint slides
on one page.
On one page. And it's interesting enough, I've seen that in higher education too. Professors like to do that. But the one thing that Kawasaki truly emphasizes, and the people that are professional emphasize is don't read the slides to the audience. Yeah. All right, just you know, you have to. This is one of the things about the conference and knowing the material. You have to know the material well enough that you just see that the slides change. You don't have to look at anything other than them while you're making.
You're so right, because the viewer, they're watching you. They glance, they can read that whole thing in a half a second, but the rest of that minute is about you. And they might, you'll say something, they're just going to blank up, look up quick at the screen. Yeah, that's that point he's talking about there. But yes,
but if you're turning around with your back to it,
that is such a common problem. It's such a common problem. And yes, an issue newbie was trying to present. Yes, the camera's here and they're trying to read the screen. Oh man, I could have read it myself, and especially when it's a really long list. You're like, so yes, it's a very, very strong point.
This is back in the day. This is funny, but I had a chief engineer of the company I was working for. we were making a presentation to a customer, a big customer. And this was, it was before, it was, dated, so it's before PowerPoint, but it was flip, the little flip charts that you put on the overhead projector, Yep. And somebody asked him a question on what was up there, and he said, well, I can figure that out for you. And he took a pen, and started writing, just turned around to the audience and started writing on the screen.
Oh, wow.
And he got all the way through it, made his presentation and everything else before he realized that he'd written on the projection screen.
Oh,
And
no.
he didn't go down here, he went up there.
With a magic marker. Oh, great.
So we had not only did we get the deal, but we had to write him a check for like $1,500 to get the screen replaced.
Yeah,
so it's just funny stuff.
Yeah, no,
just funny stuff.
I have. It's funny, we have whiteboards, and I've more than once grabbed the wrong kind of pen, and now I've got it. Well, thank you,
your hand,
thank
for
you.
that presentation.
Thank you. It's, there's many other points, and people who come with different approaches on this because they emphasize the pitch and the reality. Professionals at this will emphasize different aspects. I try to make this an overall view of what kind of aspect come involved with here. So that's our presentation. New opportunities and resources. There's one or two new ones this month. Actually, I was going to use the intermission period to remind people, yes, by the way, US Inventor is still active. I do still talk to the founders. We are still trying to promote knowledge and work on ways to get the news out further and farther. And it's coming together slowly but surely. And we have more congressmen, but it's still, I think, the wrong approach. I think we still need major influencers. Right. Well, thank you.
With everything else that's going up in DC, getting their attention on something like this is just it's remarkable.
Well, even give our own Senator Lindsey Graham had time to speak to us about these things. Right. So we're well represented here. And we think Tim Scott's going to do as well. So anyway, USI Inventor, and thank you for supporting their cause and efforts. So, because that's what made America great, is helping great people achieve things, and having great ideas help benefit all of our society. So other opportunities. Now, I actually did get into some new opportunities that are coming up here.
Okay.
This is a contest I've enjoyed and supported. It's the Create the Future contest that is actually NASA Tech Briefs sponsors this, and it's only about $25,000. It gives you great exposure, and it's for a little higher tech areas, but it's an amazing opportunity for exposure, actually. So that's why I like to help promote this one.
Absolutely.
Next one is, and these are from the last few months. I had mentioned the other services in town. One that's national, Make XYZ, is a website you can go on and find people that are freelancers for CAD designers and all these other skills, until if the laws change that we can't hire a freelancer anymore in this country. Let's hope that doesn't go. God, I feel that.
Yeah.
Next is Fiverr. I've mentioned this is a wonderful way, again, to find freelancers in all kinds of different disciplines that you can see their scoring and how well they've produced and delivered materials. Find people that are local or in specific areas. Fiverr is a great resource for hiring freelancers a la carte. Instead of building a whole company, just get the expertise you need for the 10 hours you need them for. Funding sources, there are many of these. These are crowdfunding. There's amazing records being made now of rounds of money. You can now crowdsource up to $5 million, and that's changed the game quite a bit for the investment community. So this one's Start Engine. The next one is Gofundme. That's huge. I actually recently was involved with a startup called Productified, and they haven't quite launched yet, but one of the advisors was the co-founder of Gofundme. That's how serious they are about getting involved in just even the startup phase to help, again, promote capitalism and entrepreneurship. Another group is Founders Suite. I have not worked with them personally, but I heard good things about them. New Chip, I keep seeing their ads coming across my chair. I have not worked with them, but what they're offering people is to help with the entrepreneurs starting at the ground level and building the tools. Inventors Partners, I do know rather well. Actually, I was hoping Roy Morjan would come speak to us, and he might still. He's the head of Inventors Partners, along with Louis Foreman, who is the guy who started Edison Nation, the TV show,
Yep.
and Inventor Magazine, Inventor Digest. So Inventor Digest and Edison Nation use Inventors Partners as their capital arm. Inventors Partners created hundreds and hundreds of Kickstarter campaigns. So now they've raised millions of dollars. They've brought 1,300 products to market. They've launched 600 businesses. So Inventors has got it down when it comes to a system to bring an idea to market by using social media, especially in the Kickstarter realm.
Where are they?
I
Okay.
think,
West Coast?
yeah, no, he's East Coast. I
West
think
Coast.
Roy might even be in one of the Carolinas here. Sorry, blank. I'll get that
Okay.
answer for you. We have been recognized. Columbia is growing. It is driving companies. Companies are coming here in flocks. We're seeing growth in the aerospace area. We've seen all kinds of technology areas now moving into Columbia with Growth Summit and other agencies with the South Carolina Economic Development Council and business Department of Commerce. And so they're all open, and what Laura is doing and SCRA and these groups, there's a great environment out here for helping entrepreneurs and programs, and such as yourself here in Midlands Tech. It's really wonderful to see this community is available here for people who want to create a business and get going here. So thank you. I myself wrote a book once that we offer through the Inventors Forum. If you make a donation, you get a copy of this, and the next page is what it really has is one is a spreadsheet for you to grade your idea objectively on 10 different factors to see if it's worth developing or not. And the next slide is it's also a Excel spreadsheet with 5 steps. There's 42 tasks. This one is for bringing a simple electromechanical device. So the first start is how to capture the concept, then the parts and the skills. Oh, it's no worries. The skills needed to develop the product, and at the same time, it correlates with how you're going to develop your presentation. So capturing a concept, analyzing it, developing it to something demonstrable is one aspect, and the other one is the presentation, and they can coincide because as things are created for the physical thing, those things can be used as your parts of your presentation. So if you use this plan, those things will coincide, and in the end you have a demonstrable product that you've practiced pitching, and you're going to go win that license agreement or land that investment money. So that's the idea, and we do offer that through the Inventors Forum. I personally am available to meet. I do a Thursday talk now on Facebook. I do meet Thursdays. I set aside my whole day. If you'd like, my office will sit down and at least for an hour, figure out where you're at, where you want to go with your idea, and what ways you might be able to get there. So I do invite you, as for free, as for always, to come and to talk to me about these ideas. And I'm seeing Tom take a shot from there. I will share the posters with you. And I'm actually delighted that poster was created by an artist here in town, Raymond Burton, and it's Burton artwork. And he was one of the artists over at the Henson House. There's a big house here in Columbia just last weekend. They had a big artist, and he was one of these dudes. Anyway, I like supporting local artists, and that was done by local artists. So yes, please feel welcome to come and talk to me. As about a half a dozen of you have so far in this last year or so, and I've been delighted to meet you and make their acquaintance and help them move forwards. And so, Tom, it comes back to you again, and thanks and recognition for all of what you do here for the entrepreneurial community and what you bring your this college and all the other events and activities you do here in town.
But we have, as I mentioned to you earlier, one of the things that we've got going on for the second year is we're going to have it's going to have a different name, but it's a statewide idea, a pitch contest, all right, which is done through the Institution of Higher Education, all right. So like last year there were 16 colleges involved in it. This year we hope to have all 34 colleges in the state of South Carolina involved in it. and that would be an idea pitch. And we do it through we did it last year with the help of Dr. Dirk Brown and Catherine Schwartz at USC, using their platform, which seemed to work. You were a judge. I mean, you judged some of the material last year for us. You know, a couple of pitches, but and I think we're that will happen in October.
Are those
in November?
Are those patent protected ideas, or they?
At the time of the pitch, they are not. Okay. Now,
so they don't expose the secret sauce.
No, they're not. All they're doing is they're not telling. They're telling what it is. They're not telling how it works.
And that's so important to skill, because a lot of times, again, in the industry now, people are being impressed. Oh, you got to get the patent and do this before you even talk. Mm-hmm. No, it's actually important that you get the general idea out there to get some general feedback before you even delve into those expenses. So the ability to explain a concept without the nitty gritties of how you would solve it is very.
Well, I think you told me this. You know, there is a large percentage of ideas that some will have an idea at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 8 o'clock in the morning. They're calling a patent lawyer somewhere and they're getting a patent worked on it. And then they spend $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 getting a patent. And then by the time, if anything is ever done with the product, by the time the product gets to market, it has changed so much that it's not covered by the original safeguards of the patent. You have to start all over again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it's just crazy.
It's you know, I'm a recovering engineer myself, and when sometimes people are talking to me and I'm so excited about the physics of it or the construct of it that I want to dive right into that. And I, in fact, myself got sucked into it last year, and I didn't pay attention to these other things. Is there a market? Will people buy? All these things you really need to figure out first. I dove right in and I said, yeah, I'm aboard. I'll design this machine. It's going to sterilize masks. And so I designed this entire process control machine and used a few other things that are done, but it was a new way to integrate them all and label it and do all this wonderful things. And it ate up about a month and a half of my time, and they filed for a patent. We started a company. I got paperwork that thick, and it's all now wallpaper as far as the shares are concerned, because it wasn't until the end of it that we came to realize the guy who did this all for really never vetted the whole thing, and didn't go out there and didn't just ask a few people or look further that, yeah, in fact, the government's already hired a company to do this, and they got 60 centers, and they've already shut down because nobody's buying used masks. Okay. Yeah, so yes, being able to objectively think about an idea, talk about it with people, and get more realistic feedback, so you get out of your own. Oh, I love it. You fall in love with your own ideas.
Well, coming up through the entrepreneurial journey that I've been on the last 18 years here at the college, it's one of the first things you learn, cash is king, and the killer of a new business typically is cash flow. The reason small businesses fail is because they run out of cash.
Okay.
What you need?
All right.
Okay.
I'll go through the next few slides here. All right. Well, folks, I'd let Tom go ahead and handle his facilities situations here. Again, I do love working with Tom here. I'm so grateful for all that he contributes here to the South Carolina Inventors Forum and other communities here in town. So it's a delight to have Tom. I also thank Dr. Thaddeus Jones, who takes this video material and edits and puts it up on our YouTube channel and on our web chat page as well, so you can all share it, see it, and share it later. And if you don't, in fact, get our newsletter, email me at Adrian, admin at southcarolinainventorsforum.com. Email me saying you'd like to get on our mailing list. I'll be happy to get you on our newsletter mailing list. I also thank it's Danny Andrews, who has helped us network and make some great connections to other people in town that offer different services. Carrie Larson offers her co-create space to lady inventors or entrepreneurs that want to have a space to get launched. We use the services that Charles Prescott to begin our group here. He did a great job for us. And again, shout out to Tim for having brought us and united us in the first place with such a kind soul and heart. He's a wonderful man to meet and to get an introduction to because it was, again, it was kind heart and knowledge of other kind hearts in town. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Performan, Alicia and Tim, Kehoe Constructors, and Alicia Kehoe is a consultant. Some great restaurants are Flight Deck and Bubba's Biscuit up in Lexington. David Waller, Patent Attorney, and Tom, again, special thanks to you and Midlands Technical College for hosting us here. Be creative people, stay inventive, have an inventive day, because that's what keeps all the wheels spinning. Thank you so much for your time. See you all next month.